And all I'm going to say is, look, and we can go into some of the books that were removed from what we know as the modern day Bible, but I read through the book of Enoch multiple times. And I'm not saying that these things are angels. Okay, that's not at all what I'm saying. But what I am saying is that depending on where you are in regards to your whole perspective on whether or not God exists, like I believe in God, I'm a Christian. There has to have been, and there's admissions that there was other creations that God made, but that we were the most prized creation. And so I think that this can open up a bigger topic of discussion. What I will say is that what's been interesting is, and I've had a mass array of people that have come in, right? Like we have people that come in that claim that you can use this ability to basically dog whistle these things in from a psychic ability.
Yeah, I've heard people say that.
And I think that there's something there. Otherwise, they wouldn't necessarily be able to provide some of the video evidence that they have. But then that also brings up the question of if these things are interdimensional, which we've had witnesses testify to members of Congress, and that was all publicly out there, that would then bring up the whole, well, if this is really transcending dimension, the power of what you say, thought, all of that. And then, you can look into our own government's declassified documents that the CIA had on different experiments. I mean, you can literally, last week I was going through, actually on a Friday night, I just put my son down, and I was going through some of the declassified, you go to cia.gov/reading room and you can see all the declassified documents. And so I believe it was called Stargate, and it was talking about, the basically psychological experiments where they were trying to basically remote view and all that. Why would our own government be looking into that if there wasn't something there? And so I'm appreciative to all that information being publicly out there, but I think this whole idea and stigma of trying to make it sound crazy when people actually have these questions, that needs to stop, which is why the task force is in existence. And then also, too, they need to release information.
If I was going to play devil's advocate, I would say that the government would look into that to find out if there's anything there. And that would probably take a long time if they're really being careful. So if I was going to fund a program, if someone told me that there's some people in Russia that can remote view military sites in America, I'd be like, are you sure? And like, yeah, there's a technique involved and we know the technique and we want to fund some sort of a study to see if we can do it. I'm like, let's go. What do you need? Because if maybe it's real. So I don't buy that they wouldn't spend money on it unless it's real. I say they would spend money on it to find out if you're really looking out for national security, right? You've got 300 and plus million people that you're responsible for. You got to dot your I's and cross your T's. And like, if I'm, if I'm good at my job and I'm not an egomaniac, I'm going to go, maybe there's some shit I don't know.
Well, there's looking into it and then there's expanding, right? And so if you look at all those declassified files, you can pull up, and this is just wild, but there's one where I was looking through and they had basically, the Coast Guard had called in, there was a ship that they had been given information on that was running drugs. And so they called in one of their remote viewers and they're trying to give coordinates of the ship and actually basically locate these things. And I actually was laughing because I was reading this off the website and I'm telling my husband, I'm like, imagine, you're trying to run drugs and then all of a sudden you have some weirdo at Langley or in a basement, they're like, nope, just here's the coordinates, beam me up, Scotty. But
yeah, I don't know if they write things down or type them out or what, but I talked to Hal Putoff about it and he said they used it to very specifically find the location of a downed Russian craft within a couple kilometers, which is nuts. If you think about the area where this thing crashed, it's like remote wilderness, the middle of nowhere. Russia hadn't found it yet. And apparently we found it first, according to Hal Putoff. It's just because I haven't done it and because I don't know that it's real doesn't mean it's not real. And this is a problem with people. They don't want to get duped and they don't want to look stupid. They don't want to look naive. And so they dismiss things. They dismiss that there might be frequencies that you don't tune into all the time, and someone might get really good at that, and they might be able to see things remotely.
Well, I think that this gets into the bigger discussion of what do we know, right? Going back to some of these books that were removed. There's a good podcast right now called The Autistic Tapes, and it talks about how some non-speaking or non-verbal autistic kids actually are exhibiting telepathy.
You mean the telepathy tapes?
Yeah, the telepathy tapes. Non-verbal autistic kids are exhibiting telepathy. This concept, again, if you were to talk about it 20 years ago, people will call you crazy, but, I think based on what we're seeing now, based on the fact that our own government's looked into it, based on the stuff that you were saying, I mean, you can find all this information publicly available and it's out there. And I think that there's something to it. And so, we're seeing, and we've heard, this is in non-classified settings, we've heard from people that have come forward that are saying, we're being able to, via meditation, we're essentially like downloading information. We can communicate with these things. Granted, when I'm sitting in my congressional office and I'm hearing this, I take it with a grain of salt because we do get a lot of crazy people. But when you have people that are high-level executives, very successful, clean-cut, not on drugs, they're coming in and they're telling you this stuff, and then, you're kind of cross-referencing it with various people in intelligence agencies, I think that there's something there and we need to be at least open to hearing the discussion and the argument for these things.
Oh, for sure. I mean, like I said, if there's a photo out there, I think you owe humanity a service. You're supposed to release that photograph. There's no reason why a small group of people in the government should have photo-conclusive evidence that aliens are real.
And that's crazy. And there's an overclassification aspect of this too, right? Like if you're serving in the military and you're taking a photo on your personal device or a video on your personal device, that shouldn't be the purview of the federal government. And either which way, I mean, there's been now so much stuff. There's been a lot of fake stuff put out there. But the stuff that is legitimate that we are seeing, the stuff that we had people testify to in our congressional hearings, I mean, that's not a joke. And what's even more interesting to this is that I was actually able to talk to David Grush, who now is actually working with the task force to kind of chase down a lot of these leads in regards to some of these contractors that allegedly have this tech, right? So in talking with him, again, not in a skiff, we were able to actually flesh out that prior to him testifying that he actually received very real threats against his life and his wife's life. He's a sound guy, and then shortly after he testified, there was this massive smear operation that was launched against him to try to discredit his testimony. And so, again, going into, well, if this stuff wasn't real or if he wasn't telling the truth, why would there be this massively orchestrated effort to, completely just disprove what he was trying to say or to discredit his actions and his testimony? And so it is kind of coming full circle, right? Going back to what the task force has been able to find out. I mean, we're conducting these investigations simultaneously, and we're doing this in addition to everything that to everything else that we have to do as members of Congress, right? So although I would love to just dedicate my full time and attention to this, we still have to balance it out. And so I've, again, had some great investigators who are working with us on oversight, as well as a lot of cooperation from the intelligence agencies. And we are going to be asking for this information to be declassified, at least information that has been shown to us.
I think the first break in the wall was that 2017 New York Times report where they were talking about it in logical, sensible language that these things might be from another world. But I think that movie that you're discussing, which is The Age of Disclosure,
yeah,
right?
I haven't seen it. Have you seen it?
It's very good.
Yeah.
It's very good. It's very good, and it doesn't even have any like UFO footage. I mean, maybe like a little bit.
It's just testimony.
It's just testimony. And at the end of it, you kind of draw this conclusion like, oh, this makes sense. Like this, what they're essentially saying is one of the problems is if they have been funding these secret programs, then for all these years, they've been misappropriating money.
Oh, yeah. And they've been lying to Congress.
And that's
Jinx.
Super illegal.
Very illegal.
It's
but,
super
it's like,
illegal.
Is Congress going to do anything about it? Because it's not the first time. Like, we have the ability, and this is the most frustrating thing. So, this is my second term in Congress now. But as a first-term member of Congress, when you get elected to Congress, you would think that they would bring you in and they'd say, okay, this is how you do the legislation. No, you get elected, you show up to kind of a crash course for about like a week and a half on, how to not get in trouble with ethics. And then you're basically wined and dined by lobbyists. They don't actually tell you how to do the legislation. Basically, the only rules that you're told are never vote down a rule, which is a procedural motion to bring legislation to the floor, and don't really ever vote against your party. Of which within the first week, I broke both rules, and so I was on the naughty list, per usual. But the thing is,
they tell you how to do it. That's kind of crazy.
Well, they tell you basically those are the two rules, and don't go against that, and you won't have any issues.
Those are big ass rules, though.
Yeah, because it's like you're supposed to represent your constituency. So if you have people calling your office saying, "Don't you vote for this," and then you vote against it, it's like people forget that you're supposed to representative instead of just do what the party wants. But there are mechanisms that have existed since Thomas Jefferson, who wrote our damn rule manual, that enable us to actually pass legislation and actually hold agencies and people accountable from a punitive perspective. And I don't know if you were tracking, but like I brought a vote on the former attorney general for basically refusing to testify to Congress and respond to a subpoena. And that was called inherent contempt. And a lot of Congress was like, what the hell is inherent contempt? It hadn't been done since the early 1900s. And I actually read it in the rule manual, and I read the rule manual twice. So it's like so crazy what happens when you read books. But we were able to find this out, and it was a mechanism that Congress can use to actually basically send the sergeant at arms to go arrest people.
Jeez. Okay. So one of the things that this documentary was calling for that I think is the only logical way to solve this is a mass amnesty for these people that misappropriated money and
or whistleblowers.
Well, the whistleblowers thing is crazy. Like, they leave them alone. Like, come on. Of course, everybody should fucking know this stuff, guys. The real crime is you keeping this secret from humanity. That's the real crime. Okay, the other stuff is horseshit. It's just interpretations of what you're writing down on paper. You're making up rules. Mm-hmm. But if you ask the general public how they feel this should go, a rational, normal person would say, there's no fucking way the defense contractor should be the only people who know that we're not alone. Fuck you.
Especially
That's
when we're
crazy.
facing a massive deficit and you see that they're like the Pentagon hasn't been able to pass the audit and I don't know how many years.
All that stuff is great,
crazy.
But just for humanity, that is a giant piece of information that no one should have. No one should secretly keep information that would change our entire perspective on our existence.
It's definitely wrong that it's happening, for sure. What I will tell you, though, is the issue that we have with bringing forward legislation that would give mass amnesty and pardon to these people is that there are people within the intelligence community and within Congress on both sides that will try to, if you come forward with this, and I'll tell you a very prime example of this in a moment, that they will block it. They don't want it to pass. They will stop it from even coming to the floor. They won't bring legislation that will address it because they want to keep this information secret. So Representative Tim Burchett
But why do they want to keep the information secret?
Because I think that their mouthpiece is in control of the deep state. And that's a thing. And it exists on both sides, okay?
So someone will come to them with marching orders.
100%. Representative Tim Burchett, before I got elected, was kind of on his own little island in regards to the UAP stuff. And he will himself tell you that, this is 100% like a thing, and that these defense contractors and what he believes, the Pentagon not passing audits, all this, these black budget programs. I mean, like, he will tell you he's, again, been leading out this effort way before I got there. He had a piece of legislation that was supposed to enable the FAA to report and develop a different reporting procedure for UAP stuff. And at the time, the chairman of Intel ensured that legislation was not brought forward, that it was stopped. The piece of legislation that actually passed out of the Senate, it really had no teeth to it. And then Representative Burchett drew a primary challenger that was being backed by the chairman of Intel. And so, when you are touching these, it's like, that meme where you have that stork that's like, don't touch this, and then the little foot comes out.
Yeah.
It's kind of like what we're doing, and it's not exactly easy because you will take heat from both sides. But it has been a good group that's been assembled that's bicameral, meaning it's both in the House and the Senate, and bipartisan, meaning both Democrats and Republicans are saying like, hey, this should actually happen.
Are they publicly talking about not releasing the information, or is all this stuff done in secrecy?
It's done behind the scenes.
Because if they had to do it publicly, if they had to announce their position on it publicly, it would be very damaging, I think, to anybody's political career on the right or the left.
People would be pissed, right?
Well, they're pissed. Yeah. Well, because I'm pissed. Because if they've had it for this long, I mean, if they really did recover something as early as 1947, excuse me.
Well, what I can tell you is for us specifically, we actually were made aware. Some people had come forward that said that they wanted to brief. So about 2 years ago when all this kicked off, we had requested briefings from Arrow that's in charge of kind of compiling the investigative aspect of UAP stuff. And by the way, from the get-go, even in talking to Arrow, I was like, this organization is literally a BS organization. They're never going to tell us anything. And every interaction that we had in the skiff, I was like, this is a nothing burger. But then these people came forward and said that they were actually they were told to not brief our group specifically on this topic, and that it was from, at the time, members of House leadership, but they wouldn't say who. And so I actually went with another member of Congress and confronted multiple people, and they all denying us access. So it's done behind the scenes. You'll see these random little troll blockages that might pop up. But what I can tell you is that with the new administration, specifically with the FBI, specifically with ODNI, we have gotten transparency to where previously we would have been stonewalled. We were actually given briefings. And so what I will tell you is we are going to push for the information that we saw to be out there for the American people to see.
So do you think that the whole idea of disclosure is maybe a multiple step, very agonizing, frustratingly slow process rather than a big dump of all the information that they've had from Roswell to the Aztec one to apparently there's a whole slew. I don't know if it's Aztec, I forget the name of it, but there was another during that same time period. There was a really prominent UFO recovery thing that was not as publicized as the one in Roswell. The big mistake with the Roswell one was the newspaper printed it. And so then they had to backtrack, and then they had to do the press conference where they had like some scattered pieces of a weather balloon that didn't look anything like a UFO.
And then the Air Force was like, yeah, it was nothing.
Yeah, but meanwhile, they flew the wreckage to Wright Field. They flew the wreckage, and Truman met them there, supposedly.
Well, I can tell you in our hearing, we were actually notified, and you can pull this up. I think it was one of the witnesses had talked about what had happened at Vandenberg Air Base, where there was this thing that appeared over the base. It actually had multiple blotters reporting on it from phone calls into law enforcement from like hundreds of people. And whatever had appeared over the base was basically bigger than a football field and basically a red cube with some weird thing in the center of it. I actually had our witness draw this out. This guy is sober as a priest. I mean, was a great pilot, and he's talking about all this. And so, you talk about this stuff, it seems like a sci-fi movie, but based on the evidence that we've seen, I don't have any reason to believe that these people are lying. Based on the evidence that I've seen from our own government, I think that there's something there that the American people deserve to have access to. And so this is not just on this topic, but again, in other topics as well, this has been my perspective, is transparency is what builds trust. Other governments have revealed certain information on it. To think that we are the only, life form on this planet or in this galaxy, I think is a little bit crazy, given, the fact that I also think God exists and that there's other creations. But then again, you get into this aspect of, why is it that you also have this aspect of, a certain religion that has been very controlled and I think rolled out in a certain aspect. And, when you have certain books that are removed because they don't think that people should have access to this information or know it, why remove a book from a Bible, right?
Did Wes Huff, did he touch on that? Did he talk about that? Are there people that don't believe the Book of Enoch was really a part of the Bible?
I don't remember how he discussed the missing books.
Yeah,
I think we brought it up, but I don't remember how.
That's the guy to talk to.
Yeah, so what I gather...
That's the guy to talk to about, you know what I mean? Because you have to really understand the history of the Bible to be able to figure out what's legitimate, what's not, why they put it into the New Testament. I had some very erroneous ideas about it until I talked to intelligent people that really, really know the history of it. And it's very strange stuff.
Well, so from what I gather, and by the way, I'm not a theologian in any capacity, but just from my personal opinion on this. So you have the Ethiopian Orthodox text, which has, I think, 88 books of the Bible in total. But in the Ethiopian Orthodox text, it's basically kind of like a mainline OG version of the Bible. And then sometime in the 4th century, there was actually a group that came together and they removed certain books. And the story goes that Revelations actually had replaced Enoch. And so it's interesting because when you're looking kind of full circle on, you hear the stuff that some of these people are talking about, and then you see and you read the Book of Enoch, which is a wild read, okay? And then you look at kind of what our modern day description is of what angels and entities are versus what Enoch was seeing and reporting in his language and ability at that time. I think that there's a lot that brings you to then ask the question, well, why would they remove this information? If it's truly, written in part of the oldest Bible in the world, why would they then take it out and water it down? And I'm not saying that you can't find God through the new Bible, right? Like everyone's on their own spiritual journey, and I think everyone can pray and you can access God. But I just find that very interesting. And so what I will say is that I like to have the whole kind of picture in front of me. And so I feel like to fully understand A through Z, you kind of have to be able to read it.
Yes. I had Rep Luna on the podcast.
Oh, yeah.
And she was the one who really got me to read the Book of Enoch.
Dude, she's digging in.
Oh, yeah.
She's digging in. Yeah.
She's all in on the UFOs.
I know she is.
I don't know what they tell her.
Yeah.
I mean, is she useful to them? You know,
Hey,
the whole thing is
maybe,
weird.
though. Maybe. It's hard to know.
But when I started reading it, now, if that was included in the Bible, if they had, because it really was rabbis that decided that it didn't jive with the Torah, right?
Right.
And so they said, no, this one's
Can't
too
have
crazy.
this, yeah.
If that was in the Bible, and that's what we were taught,
Things would be different.
do you imagine like
Things would
Sunday
be
church,
different,
the
bro.
Watchers came down
Right,
and made it.
yeah.
But meanwhile, that is in the same area of Qumran, written down as the book of Isaiah. So all these things that are included in the Bible, that's there. It's all in the same word. Why are we ignoring some of it? Like, that's really crazy. Why ignoring the stuff that seems the most kooky?
I think that there's probably maybe disagreements because I mean, you know, there's so much change for the biblical canon from all of these different councils, like the Council of Nicaea, all these different censorings and changing of the Bible. It's probably personal issue. It could be something as simple as just someone who personally did not believe that. It's like, that's bullshit. Remove that. That's not real. There's no way there were giants. But I love how at the beginning of the Bible it's like there were giants in those times and the times before.
Yeah.
Anyway.
All over.
Moving
the
on,
Bible.
never mention it again, like in any sort of real context other than like, you know, David and Goliath in a few situations. But no, I really am starting to wonder if there was a giant race that was on this planet,
there was.
dude. I really do.
The Native American depictions alone.
Yeah.
There's too many stories of enormous men that they had to kill.
Yeah. And their history, their oral tradition goes so far back.
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
so
imagine
far
we're
back.
talking 10,000.
Yeah.
Now that we know that human beings lived in North America 22,000 plus years ago, right? So the fossilized footprints that they found in New Mexico, so that's 22,000 years. So imagine if 22,000 years ago these things were a real thing. How many of them have you found? You haven't found any bones of humans from 22,000 years ago in North America, have you? No, right? So why?
Exactly.
Does the Smithsonian have them, these motherfuckers? If they really do have a giant down there,
Can you imagine? I think they probably do, Joe.
Can you imagine if there's like there's a tomb that you have to go into? It's like a vault. The guy cranks open the vault.
It's like the history version of Area 51.
You see a fucking head the size of this table, and you're like, what?
That's what we're dealing with. That's what we're dealing with. Yeah.
Yeah, and we had to kill him off.
Maybe.
Which totally makes sense. Why would you let that motherfucker live?
Right.
You got a 10-foot tall, 12-foot tall.
That's a problem.
Yeah, 2,000-pound human that eats people.
That is a problem. I wonder, you know, I always get this because, like, the Watchers themselves are never described as giant beings.
Right.
I wonder where the giant came into the equation.
Well, isn't it us compared to them?
Maybe, because
like,
maybe there were slight aliens, like alien greys or something, and, you know.
Well, look at the description of the Nephilim, how they destroyed everything.
Yeah.
Like, they created this thing that consumed everything, destroyed everything, including mankind. Like, what does that sound like?
It sounds like us.
That sounds like us.
It sounds like us.
Right. And also, like, you're saying mankind. Like, mankind, what are you saying? Are you saying aliens? Are you saying, like, who wrote this?
Yeah.
Like, what is mankind?
For
like,
sure.
what does that term mean? I bet you're not saying man. I bet you're probably using an ancient language to describe whatever the dominant force was at the time that's writing all this down. What are we talking about?
Yeah.
What is these Watchers? They mated with humans? So what are they? And they created something that destroyed everything? What? So, okay. What is that? What are you talking about? And doesn't that sound exactly like humans? Like, what do? We fucking destroy everything.
Yeah.
We destroy everything. We light things on fire. We suck all the fish out of the ocean. We throw our garbage in it. We are so destructive.
Yeah.
And we're so consuming. We consume. You know? We're one of the only animals that dies because we eat too much.
Yeah. Right.
Right? We're one of the only animals.
Yeah. Well, we are the only example on this planet of the level of intelligence that we have. I mean, it's just phenomenal. Right. I mean, really quite phenomenal when you consider all of the various avenues of evolution that have been given the opportunity.
We have a massive leap.
Phenomenal leap, but a leap that has to, in some way, have been intervened with, in my opinion. I mean, it's such a quantum leap in our ability of cognition and the brain size. I mean, I do find the stoned ape theory very interesting, and you know, the concept of using psychedelics, and I think there's a role to play in that for sure. But I just think that when you have such a novel trajectory change from every other creature, every other animal on this planet, that tells me that there is something fundamentally accelerated in humans, and whether that can just be put down to shamanic use of psychedelics, I don't know. I think that when you invoke again all of these various theologic stories, it becomes clear that something was interfacing with us, and perhaps at one point we were interfacing with them. And there was a communication and a relation that has since long degraded after, cataclysmic outreaches and,
I think the evolution that came out of psychedelics and primitive man was the escape from the barbaric nature of our roots.
Right.
I don't think it's necessarily the development of the human brain.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's probably
Communal
a way
values
to,
and
well, also a way
societal.
to use the human brain with its primate background, but soften the ego.
Right.
And
And
endorse a feeling of community, and promote
For
a
sure.
feeling of community and love and the connectiveness that you get from psychedelics. It will allow you to traverse the timelines between incredibly barbaric hunter-gatherers with
Right.
stone-tipped tools to agrarian societies where people are all living together and cooperating, and it makes sense. But what doesn't make sense is the giant leap to being a human in the first place.
No.
It's kooky.
It is.
And
kooky.
it's in the Bible. At least it's in the book of Enoch.
It's
that's
there.
the crazy part about it, is that they literally describe what we're, and not just us, like many people have theorized, like, have we been a product, are we a product of genetic manipulation? Are we a product of accelerated evolution?
Well, again, my own experiences, I just feel like there is quite obviously a vast intelligence spectrum out there, in my opinion, and I think it goes beyond our own perception of space and time, and I think that there are likely things that can come in from realms that we just don't really believe are real, like the astral, and even the realm of the imagination is an interesting thing. What is this place inside of our heads that we can instantaneously create anything we want, and all things, including everything on this table, once came from inside someone's mind? Like, we are excretors of ideas into reality. We kind of render reality into something that nothing else does.
I'm in the middle of the audiobook of the Book of Enoch, and it's one of the wildest things I've ever listened to in my life.
It's weird.
Oh my God, it's so weird. When you realize that a lot of the people in the Book of Enoch are also in the Bible, and that it's one of the craziest stories, it's one of the craziest origin stories ever, that angels came down and bred with humans and made giants.
Right.
The giants destroyed the earth. Like, what is this story?
It's mostly in the Hebrew Bible. It's the story of what led to the flood. Yeah, the sons of Elohim.
What a strange concept, that angels came down and bred with humans.
It's a very weird idea. Well, there's different ways to look at translating B'nai Elohim. It might be, well, the first word, B'nai, means the sons of. So it kind of revolves on what's the meaning of Elohim. So it could be God with a big G, could be God with a small g, could be angels, could be dignitaries in a government, like judges. Yeah, so the less far out kind of interpretation of that phrase or that term is the sons of the mighty, the sons of the judges, the sons of the renowned people, as opposed to the sons of angels or the sons of God.
Okay, so how do you interpret the Watchers? What do you think that could be?
I think, they're not mentioned in the Hebrew Bible. They are mentioned in the Book of Enoch. That's a crazy book, isn't it?
It's crazy.
Yeah, I started reading it, and I said to my wife, I can't handle this. It's too much.
It's because if that was left in the Bible, if they decided that was like a part of the canon, that would change everything.
Well, in what way?
It's the craziest story ever. That these things came down and bred with humans and created giants, and the giants destroyed and consumed everything.
Yeah, those giants.
And consumed each other.
Yeah, bloodshed.
What kind of kooky story is this? What is this?
Well, it's the reason for the flood.
Right.
and all that. Yeah,
Yeah.
So yeah, things just got so bad. God said, "I changed my mind," and He brings the flood.
It's like the further you go back, the crazier the story gets.
I know. Well, the Book of Enoch was written maybe 125 BCE. The Book of Enoch is just fully psychedelic. I mean,
Right.
at least a lot of it is. Yeah. It's a psychedelic version of the Bible in some ways. Well, it is really psychedelic. I think it's from the release of endogenous DMT. It comes about, or from drinking and having an ayahuasca-like experience.
That's what you think the origin of the Book of Enoch is?
Well, it's a psychedelic experience, and it could be from spontaneous endogenous release of DMT. It might be a prophetic state that's brought about. It's a visionary state, clearly. Might have been a huge fever dream. I mean, he was really out there.
But like when he's talking about the Watchers and the angels mating with human women and creating the Nephilim, like what do you think that is?
Yeah. Well, the Watchers aren't stated discreetly or explicitly in the Hebrew Bible, but it could be just the angels, because they never sleep. That's one of the qualities, is they never sleep, so they're called Watchers. Yeah, and what happened, like the Nephilim, here comes the role of that three-letter root system. Is the Nephilim, it comes from a Hebrew root, naphal, to fall, or to be brought down. So the Nephilim fell. That's one way to understand them. Yeah, and then they were the giants, right?
Yes, they were the giants that consumed everything.
Yeah.
And ate their own flesh, and they sound really bad.
Well, I think that what was going on, at least if you're looking at the text anyway, as explanation, it was because of them. The world was just getting terrible. It was full of violence. So God reconsidered having created man in the first place. But Noah was simple or pure, righteous in that way, and was allowed to survive.
So what do you think they were describing when they were talking about the Nephilim, when they were talking about them as giants? You think that's just a bad interpretation?
Well, they may have been giants, physically. Yeah, I do think they were giants. Yeah,
they even had an actual description of how tall they were by some measurement. Yeah, right. There was some ancient measurement.
Yeah, that's probably in Enoch. It's not just isn't narrated any specifics about the giants. They were men of renown. They were powerful.
Because this is the thing. There's always one of the most fun internet rabbit holes to go down is, are they hiding evidence that giants existed? Like 30-foot tall men that lived in the mountains. And there's always been weird stories of giants all throughout history. And there's people who've supposedly discovered giant bones, and then they stored them in the basement of some famous museum, and they won't let anybody have access to them. Kind of fascinating. Yeah. Because they do exist, like those stories exist in history, but you wonder, like, is it just a really big person, like that mountain guy from the Game of Thrones, like an actual human being who's just really extraordinarily big? Or is it a different thing? Is it a giant human being?
Mm-hmm. Well, they're giants. Yeah. I mean, it depends on your perspective. Like I'm trying to look at, or understand anyway, the giants as they're described in the Hebrew Bible, or else, by implication in the Book of Enoch. They were giants, men of renown, and then the earth became corrupt.
And they consumed everything.
Yeah. That's in the Book of Enoch.
The problem is, it's like, if you're looking at the least charitable version of human beings in 2025, there's a lot of examples that you could point to that go, well, that sounds a lot like us.
Well, there may be there won't be a flood that destroys all mankind. God promised there'd be no flood that would destroy all mankind. That's the reason that we have the rainbow, or that's the meaning of the rainbow is the covenant.
God made a promise that he wouldn't flood us anymore.
That he wouldn't destroy all mankind.
All mankind with a flood.
With a flood. But that doesn't rule out, let's say, other things.
But don't you think whoever wrote these stories, don't you think that was a regional event? Like these great floods, like if they were happening, let's just say that Randall Carlson's wrong and there was just one flood in the area, and there has to be, if there's people from all parts of the world that all have this flood story, there has to be some truth to it, right? We agree to that?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I read the Hebrew Bible, and that's sort of where my thinking about the events that are described in the Bible as occurring.
So you just leave it at that?
Yeah.
But when you
well, we saw, I mean, the important thing about, I think the important thing that I get anyway out of the Hebrew Bible is a kind of an understanding of how things are between us and between us and God.
Well, I don't think this contradicts that in any way.
Yeah,
it's just fascinating. And when Randall Carlson explains it, and interestingly enough, he first had this idea. He's not the only person to have this idea, but he first had his version of this idea while he's on acid.
On drugs, that's what I was going to say, but I didn't want to say it first.
He looked out and he just had this vision like, oh my God, this was water. Water made this, and it happened really quickly. It just all clicked with him, and then he's been chasing that rabbit ever since. And he's a fascinating guy. When you hear him talk, he's so well read in the subject and can just recall information so effortlessly. So it's a really fascinating guy to listen to talk about it because he's very compelling. Yeah, but I think those younger Dryas impact theory folks are right.
Yeah,
I think something big happened.
I wonder why LSD sparked his genius that way.
I think he said that he saw it. Like when he looked out, he recognized what he was looking at.
Right, there it was.
He recognized that water made that thing.
Yeah.
And that for some reason that hadn't been even thought of. But then when he showed me a bunch of these images where you have like satellite images, and you could see how the Earth was clearly, it has the ripples of like massive amounts of water going through certain parts of the world.
Yeah, well, it kind of raises the issue of the spiritual properties or promise of the psychedelics. I mean, are the psychedelics spiritual? Entheogens. Yeah, I just don't know if they... I'm beginning to believe they more enhance... They have to have something to work on. They can only work on who you are. And I think they just work on who you are. I don't think they necessarily... generate their own information that they're somehow transmitting to you. Yeah, it's the question of how psychedelics work. What are psychedelics doing? I think psychedelics, or the psychedelic state, will play an important role in shaping this virtual universe that seems to be taking hold, entering.
Well, it's really weird considering that it was 1970 when most of these psychedelics were made a Schedule 1 substance.
Controlled Substance Act of 1970.
Yeah. Imagine that didn't happen. Imagine Nixon was not president, that didn't happen, that didn't go through, and the world evolves technologically at the same level that it has now, but also has access the entire time to all these different psychedelics legally.
I think people were tripping hard even after they were illegal.
I'm sure they were, but I bet they weren't as much.
Yeah.
It's dangerous. People will get put in jail. People don't want to lose their lives because they want to, take a tap of acid. So that they didn't do it. It's a real deterrent for a lot of people that want to have a good future. They go, fuck that. I don't want to do drugs. But if mushrooms were legal, you might have made a completely different life choice a long time ago that made you happier.
Right. Well,
or not, but the option to try should be yours.
So you're pro-legalization.
Yes, and it certainly shouldn't be restricted by people who haven't experienced it. That doesn't make any sense to me. Like, why would a person who has never experienced psychedelics be able to tell people who've done psychedelics that they can't do them? That's nuts. Like, you don't even know what you're talking about. You don't have any experience in the state of mind that is enhancing these people's lives that have come back from war. Like, especially like ibogaine therapy, which is they've passed now in Texas, so they're allowing that to happen now for people with like severe drug addiction and PTSD, and
yeah, it's a very interesting drug. I was wondering if you've ever done ibogaine.
No, I haven't, but it's beautiful that it's being approved and used here, because there's so many people that could. So many fucking people go over and have to fight overseas and come back home scrambled and need some help.
Yeah.
And people who got hooked up on pills because they got injured,
right,
because something happened or whatever it is, and then all of a sudden you have a real problem. Ibogaine is one of the best ways to kick it. Like, one of the absolute best ways. It's very effective, right? It's like one dose is like one experience is like 80-something% of the people never go back to whatever they were addicted to?
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's because of the drug or the belief in the drug. The guy who first started to, kind of popularize ibogaine was a fellow named Howard Lotsoff. Very cool guy. Met him sort of during his late phase, but he, like as a young man, he was addicted, to heroin. And he heard about ibogaine as a drug to just trip on and have some kicks. Yeah, and he stopped, and he found himself just not using opiates anymore.
Wow.
Yeah. The origin stories for ibogaine are really fascinating. Yeah.
So before that, people didn't know that you could use it to kick drug addiction?
Not that much. No.
Well, is drug addiction ubiquitous throughout history? Is there always been people that are addicted to drugs? It's just when does it start getting recorded about people with addictions, actual addictions to drugs?
Yeah, I don't know. There was the idea of addiction in the 1800s, maybe even earlier. It was kind of an American, British idea.
Like, did they know they were alcoholics in the 1400s?
Yeah, all kinds. I mean, I can't imagine what they were addicted to in the 1400s.
Right.
Scopolamine containing plants, the Solanaceae, mandrake, and all.
Scopolamine, isn't that dust that they blow up your nose and turn you into a vampire or a zombie, rather?
Yeah.
Is that it?
Scopolamine. Oh yeah.
Isn't that like that?
Right. It's a zombie drug or something.
Yeah, some sort of a zombie drug.
Yeah.
Right? Isn't that scopolamine?
Yeah. Well, do you know Dennis McKenna?
Sure.
Yeah, he tells the story of scopolamine in Mexico. I hope I'm right. It's a great story.
Devil's breath. That's right.
Devil's
medication used to treat motion sickness and post-operative nausea and vomiting, but it also does something wacky.
Yeah.
Like, if you take large doses of it, that the devil's breath thing. So you can get it in Dramamine. That's what Dramamine is, right?
It's an anticholinergic, like the scopolamine drugs are.
But isn't like the stuff that makes you less nauseous when you're seasick? Like, isn't that?
Like compazine.
Does Dramamine have this stuff in it?
Says they're not the same.
It's not the same?
Yeah, one is...
Sorry. Dramamine is oral antihistamine called dimethylhydrinate, while scopolamine is a different prescription-only anticholinergic medicine, particularly in patch form, used to prevent motion sickness. Okay, so they put it in a patch form to stop motion sickness, whereas Dramamine is the oral thing that stops motion sickness. Got it.
Fentanyl's also in patches. That's the best way to take it.
It is a weird thing. So, but scopolamine you can get in a patch, and it is for motion sickness, right? But it's when they blow it up your nose that it's not good.
Well, it's really it's the active ingredient in Jimson weed, loco weed.
And what is that?
It grows in the Southwest. There's a lot growing, or in
Loco weed,
New Mexico, Jimson weed, loco weed. Yeah, it's scopolamine, and it will cause effects. Well, one of my patients when I worked at the VA in La Jolla, was an alcoholic, back in the day. Took Jimson weed tea, drank a lot of it, wandered off to the desert 2-3 days, one of those kind of stories. Came back, he didn't remember a thing, but he stopped using alcohol. He was brain damaged, though.
Whoa!
Sorry to say. Yeah.
Brain damage from that?
From either being in the desert or from the scopolamine. Took too much.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's a crazy drug. Yeah, it is useful. One of the...
I would rather get motion sickness.
Yeah.
That sounds terrible.
Yeah, if you take too much, or you have a bad reaction to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, what do you think's going on with American health?
That's a good question. Yeah. Well, I've been fascinated by these videos of pregnant women taking Tylenol to show Trump that they don't believe in what RFK Jr. is saying, that somehow or another anti-science, when this science came from Harvard. Mm-hmm. That's where the study came from. I mean, he's not making things up, and these people are like on TikTok. They're pregnant women taking Tylenol.
Yeah, I took a lot. Well, I mean, if it weren't for Tylenol, I wouldn't be here today.
For real?
Well, I mean, I do find it quite helpful. Yeah. For injuries, as you get older, as a lot of people get older, mm-hmm. There's pain.
It's acetaminophen, though,
right?
Yeah, it's acetaminophen. Which is really toxic, isn't it?
Well, if you take too much, it can cause...
So that's what it is? It's like a dose thing? Mm. So 1 is fine?
1's fine. 4 is fine, probably. After 4, can upset your stomach. Liver toxicity is possible. But if you stay within normal limits, it seems to be fine.
So...
At least for myself. And
you.
And also in general, there haven't been recalls for,
And what do you take it for, if you're going to take it?
Pain.
What kind of pain are you getting in?
Feet. On my head, hernia repair a while back.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I find it to be a very helpful drug with no side effects.
Well, you should definitely be allowed to take it, especially you. My concern is always...
I should be allowed to take it.
People that don't understand that there's a dose that if you go over that, it's going to torch your liver, and you could die.
Yeah, it's all about dose. I mean, microdosing psychedelics mm-hmm. are completely different, or in quite a few ways than full dose, or the effects are different.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Have you tried microdosing?
I have in the past. Yeah.
Yeah, a while back, I was having some belly issues, and I microdosed ayahuasca for about a month. So helpful, very helpful.
What is every day like? Microdosing ayahuasca?
Well, it is a microdose, so it was teeny.
So it just gave you just a little peek?
I wish.
Nothing?
Not really. I took more in the beginning, then kind of stretched it out. It's kind of like coffee, like sparkly coffee if you take a little too much.
Oh, yeah? What do you think would have happened if that 1970 sweeping act didn't take place? What do you think the world would... How much different? Have you ever contemplated it? How much different would the world be?
Not really.
Not at all? Good for you. Good for you. Why waste your time?
Well, I mean, when I tried to get my DMT study off the ground, I mean, that was pretty weird. That was, 2 years of just, backbreaking labor.
What year was that? Where it started?
I submitted the paperwork in September 1988. I gave my first dose of DMT in November 1990. And I gave a lot of DMT then. I went kind of crazy for the next 5 years.
And you were doing IV drip, slow release, right?
No, it was one big dose.
One big dose IV?
Yeah, bolus, IV bolus. Yeah. Yeah, so our high dose was 0.4 milligrams per kilogram. And the highest dose is now being used are 0.3. Nobody has gone back up to 0.4 on a regular basis. Yeah, so people really went out there on 0.4. They were pretty scared. They weren't sure they were coming back.
They weren't sure they were coming back. Yeah. That is a fear. That's a fear of all psychedelic experiences. You don't think you could shut it off.
Yeah.
What is this? And is this real? Is this around me all the time and I'm ignoring it?
Is this real?
Is this real?
Are you ignoring it? Yeah, boy, that's a terrible state to be in.
Terrible. Excuse me.
That's why. Yeah, that's why I think DMT ought to be carefully taken.
I think everything should be carefully taken, especially if you've got something wrong with you already.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're self-diagnosing with some really potent stuff, like
right, then things can really go south.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, who's going to decide that? Based on what?
Well, no one's deciding for you with alcohol. You could go fill your bar at home with more than enough to kill yourself with.
Yeah, don't get started on it. Yeah.
Right? Like most people can.
Yeah.
Most people, if you have like a little bar in your house, like 3 or 4 bottles of Jack Daniels, a couple of this, a couple of that, you're dead. Drink all that stuff, you're dead.
Yeah. Have you ever gone through a drinking phase?
Not a bad drinking phase. I don't drink at all anymore. But I will still, if I feel like it, I'll have a glass of wine.
What kind?
Or I'll have a margarita. I like a nice Cabernet, sir.
Okay.
I just like a little red wine sometimes, but I've only had like 2 or 3 glasses of anything over the last like 8-9 months. And even like I didn't even finish the wine. It's like I've lost my taste for it.
Mm-hmm.
The trade-off is not worth it. Like, I have a lot of fun people in my life, and I have a lot of fun without alcohol. Like, I don't necessarily think it was providing me with the amount of good versus the amount of negative. The negative outweighed it, especially physically.
Right.
It's just bad for you physically.
Yeah. Thankfully, I didn't drink in high school. And I kind of made up for lost time in college, and I got really sick a few times. Yeah, so
it's rough.
I just stopped drinking, like to that point anyway.
Well, it's like people are having a good time, and I get it. And if you're young, and I get it, I did it too, but it's not good for you.
No,
it's not good for your decision making too, because then the next day you're like, ugh. And if you're at that low state of being hungover, you're fucking for sure not putting out great energy.
Yeah. Well, you don't want to get into that state, or
no.
if you do, you want it channeled really, really carefully.
Yeah.
Like I've never been part of an ultra-Orthodox sect, but I think what happens in some of the ultra-Orthodox Jewish sects, there's a Lubavitcher sect in Brooklyn, and the fellow who led that was Schneerson, Menachem Schneerson, and he really enjoyed drinking. He got inspired, and he wanted others to become inspired. Yeah, it has to, some become a conduit. I think it kind of differs, like with Bukowski. You can think of somebody who loves alcohol. First time he got drunk, it was a psychedelic experience, actually. Yeah, in his account, he says to himself, "I think I've found something very, very important."
It's kind of hilarious.
Yeah, and that was never the effect alcohol had on me. I didn't. You feel good for a while, a short period of time.
Yeah. We obviously all differ biologically, but some people, it hits a switch that nothing else does. Some people love it.
Yeah. Well, it's discounted in the text. You shouldn't drink too much. It's very, very
smart,
very clear.
But I'm not sure you shouldn't drink at all. I think you should drink if you want to drink, and people get real rigid. You know, especially if you have someone around you that has a problem with alcohol, or you have had a problem with alcohol.
Yeah. Well, there's a huge homeless population in Albuquerque.
Oh, yeah.
Alcohol plays somewhat of a role.
Yeah.
I played a lot more in the Navajo reservation when I lived in Gallup. Yeah, I think people just use and abuse drugs. You know,
There's also those things, they sound like there's not a lot of opportunity in the places you're describing, right?
Right. So if you don't, you just want to not feel anything.
You're outside a reservation.
Or on one.
Or on a reservation. Yeah. I mean, I'm in the middle of the audiobook Empire of the Summer Moon for the second time.
Okay.
It's all about the Comanches and
I don't know that
the
book.
war between the settlers and the Comanches
Oh,
here.
really?
It's crazy.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm in the middle of this, and I'm thinking, like, have people always been this horrible, and we're just sort of catching up to it now?
Well, you know, that's taken into account in Cain and Abel, the Cain and Abel story.
Sure.
The first two children, one murders the other. So it started way back.
It starts way back with a bang. And you just go, God, have people always been this awful?
From the beginning. Yeah, there's a line in the text that God is going to destroy mankind. No. What happens here? I think he decides people will only live 120 years at the most, because their inclination is bad from the get-go, and 120 years is enough time to repent and become a better person.
Wow.
So you're given 120 years to deal with what you were born with.
But this book, this Empire of the Summer Moon, it just makes me think, when you think about what life was like for the people that lived here before the European settlers arrived, and how quickly everything went away. Historically, in terms of like the timeline, it was only a few hundred years, and it was just completely gone.
Yeah. Well, the Garden of Eden lost.
There was a lot of war. That's the thing that everybody likes to leave out. Like, I'm fascinated with Native American culture. I'm fascinated with this Comanche civilization that lived here, because this book, Empire of the Summer Moon, is just, it's so interesting. They were so fierce, and they lived right here.
Yeah, well, there's 29 pueblos in New Mexico, and the Pueblo are peaceful folk. They're agricultural.
Yeah.
That's been their heritage.
The Comanche were not. And one of the things this book talks about is how a lot of the Apaches were not on horseback, and they were, and that they were literally wiping out bands of Apache and forcing them to go to Mexico. It's like, this has always been, there's always been, once they've had horses, which is really like after the Spaniards got here.
Right.
Then once the Comanches figured out horses, they got really good at it. And they were like an impossible barrier to get through this part of the country.
Yeah, there's mostly Navajo around where I lived in Gallup. And they were nomads. They raised sheep. Spun.
Sure. And then on the eastern side, a lot more agriculture, right?
Yeah,
it's just
all the space in the south.
The amount of time that it took for everything to get pushed, where if you're a Native American and you're it's 2025 for you and you're living on a reservation, you're like, whoa, what happened? You start going into the history of it, like, how many people died? Like, what happened?
Is there Comanche presence in Texas?
A lot of signs, I'll tell you that. A lot of the signs are like Quanah Parker Lane. He was the last Comanche chief.
Yeah. Well, they always name things after what used to be there.
Well, this is all that area. There's a lot of Comanche were in this area, but it went all the way down to Oklahoma. It was just a barrier that you couldn't get through.
Yeah. Well, it was fun living in Gallup. It was mostly Navajo.
Yeah.
Yeah, very low key. They'd come to terms with being, defeated. It's
Crazy though, isn't it?
Well,
I mean, it like had that. All those things had to take place in order to get New York City. Like, yeah. So you have to decide, what do you like more, New York City, or you want to go back in time and say, don't sell this?
Right.
You know, what do you like more? Do you like pizza? Do you go to a nice?
I like pizza.
I do too. I like to be able to go to a nice nightclub, have a drink, go to a nice steak dinner in New York City, or give it all back. Give it all back. Go back in time. You can say, hey guys, you're getting robbed. Don't sell this for whatever it was.
You can't halt progress.
How much did they buy New York for?
$27.
Really?
In jewelry, fake jewelry even.
No.
Yeah.
Wow, what a deal.
Or $45.
What a great origin story for a villainous country. That their number one city was made through a swindle deal.
Yeah.
Where it was fake jewelry.
Well, that's where I went to medical school, was the Bronx. Well, you're from New Jersey.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's where I was born, yeah.
Yeah, I trained in the Bronx. I didn't get to Jersey much.
New Jersey's a crazy place because everybody thinks of it as just being city because like it's right near the city, like Hackensack and Hoboken and stuff like that. But it's like mostly rural.
Yeah,
Mostly it's got bears all over the place in it.
There's some really nice coastal parks.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The shore is awesome. You know, small doses.
Yeah.
It's nice to go down there.
Yeah. So the Bronx was great training.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a yeshiva. It's like the modern Orthodox, university in the country. Yeah.
Oh, that's where it is?
Yeah, and it's the medical school of yeshiva. It's called Einstein, and it's in the Bronx. It was great training. We could do anything. We could do everything because it was pretty poorly staffed in some ways in the 70s. Yeah, so we had a lot of duties.
When did you first even have the idea to create a study of people doing IV DMT? Like, when did you even?
That's a long story.
It seems like a good one, though. It seems like a good one because how do you get to the point where you're asking the government to let you do this, and then you get them actually to say yes? It
was the war on drugs that funded our study. Well, it all kind of came to a head with Terence McKenna. We were up in his loft one afternoon, and instead of saying DMT was a really great drug and asked for money, we said DMT was a really dangerous drug and asked for money.
I think you've told me this before.
Yeah.
But it's a good story.
Yeah.
You just want to study it.
We just want to study it. It's not good or bad.
It's clever because you're not lying.
No. I knew what I was talking about too.
Yeah.
Like I had done neuroendocrinology research with melatonin, circadian rhythm research. Yeah, I was a bona fide investigator. I just asked simple questions. Could we give it? What happens when you give it? DMT is really strange. The role it's played in my life. I've been complaining for years that, not complaining for years, but I don't know. I'm more skeptical of the psychedelic experience than I was before. I don't think it's a panacea. Well, I think it is a panacea. That's the problem.
I think there's an issue with spiritual narcissism. That's a thing that sort of grips people when they start doing it a lot, and then their identity is wrapped up in doing it a lot.
Yeah. Like
there's a little bit of that happens with folks.
With DMT in particular.
Is it? Yeah.
Or ayahuasca.
Mm-hmm.
About once a year, I get an email saying something in the subject line, "Your book and my son." Yeah, and they say that they just smoked way too much DMT. They were in the hospital or in prison.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, they became messianic, like you said. Like you believe you know more than anyone, and if they just listened.
Yeah.
False messiah. Well, there's some interesting stories of false messiahs. At least within Judaism, Messiah has not come yet, as opposed to Christianity, where Jesus was Messiah. And
So what is Judaism's version of what happened with Jesus? He wasn't the Messiah, so he died. He didn't get resurrected?
well, he may have been resurrected, but resurrection occurs in the Hebrew Bible, so that's not unique.
Right, but what is their take on it?
Well, end of story, he's killed.
And that's it. He don't come back.
No, not really. Not within the Hebrew Bible. That's part of the New Testament, the Christian Bible. Oh, that's one thing I wanted to bring up is Old Testament is a term that's a little disparaging in a way.
Is it?
It's been replaced by Hebrew Bible.
Interesting.
Yeah.
When was that?
Well, it's been building.
Okay. So
Yeah.
is this like a pronouns thing? It prefers this? It wants to be identified as the Hebrew Bible?
They prefer it.
I was saying it.
Yeah, it could be either.
In interest of simplicity.
Yeah. Like I was thinking of, well, you know how people put in parenthetical phrases, he, him. Yeah, I was thinking of doing that for myself once. It and its.
It and its?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it would be gender neutral.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the.
Or just not ever. Come on.
Yeah. So I was thinking about does God have genitals? And probably not.
Doesn't seem like it's the likely way we were made. But there's probably some sort of a interdimensional psychedelic equivalent of intercourse that higher beings have some interaction with each other.
I think it was the optimal form.
The optimal form?
Yeah, to contain a certain consciousness and do particular things. It's an ideal form. It was ideal. So that's why it took that particular unique shape. Form follows function, things like that.
Right.
Yeah.
But I got confused there. What are you referring to?
Oh, well, the specific. Well, I think you were. I was referring to man being made in God's image. So,
Okay.
Yeah, with genitals.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I think it in the animal kingdom, things evolve to do certain things. They have form and function, which combined determine their range of behaviors. So I think in humans, it's sort of was the optimal form as well. Same way, perhaps.
What do you think happened when human beings had this doubling of the brain size over a period of 2 million years? What do you think that was?
Is that true?
Supposedly.
Yeah, I think so. I think it was, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Sounds like a crazy little expansion.
Yeah, so, you could look at it, evolutionarily, biologically, theologically, you can look at it too as, finally being endowed with, a human spirit. There's multiple spirits, and even in the Hebrew Bible, there's multiple spirits.
So as the brain expands in size, you develop a human spirit?
I think so. Yeah, that human spirit allows for divine communication. At least that's how the theory goes.
So
it's the breathing in of the soul to man by God, and it's in man's creation.
Right. So ultimately, we're going to get to be a gray. We're going to have a big, giant head, and we're not going to need to talk because we're going to do it telepathically.
Yeah. Okay. Telepathically, you think people being able to read the mind is a good thing? It will be a good thing once that happens, or if it can happen?
I think it will be a thing. And like all things, it will have good aspects to it and bad aspects to it. I think reading people's minds will be very enlightening. You're going to learn a lot more about how people actually think versus what they project. You're gonna be able to see people's motivations. You're gonna be able to see lies, and we might even have a universal visual language that they develop. We might all be able to adopt it really quickly, and kids probably will jump right on board, and they'll be literate in it before we are.
What about psychological ambivalence? Loving someone one moment, hating them another.
Well, that's
what happens if you tune in to one at one moment. You're convinced that's solely the case. If you're ambivalent, ambivalence is a real thing, and you have an unconscious too, where things are kind of stored away psychologically.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's good.
It might be hard.
I don't know if there is some way where we link up and we can communicate completely telepathically. It could be really weird, but it will be a thing. That's my point. It's like we're gonna have to navigate it like we navigated making books, like we navigated everything else. Like if we want to stay alive, we've got to recognize that there's some shit going down. There's some shit going down right now, and
right. Well, there's free will, isn't there? Forever. You still all these decisions that you have to make. Well, I mean, in this,
or is there free will? The determinism people don't think there is.
Well, it feels as if there's free will.
Yeah, I feel like we respect free will, so it's probably a real thing. We respect a person who's like been a drunk their whole life, who puts down the bottle and starts running around the block. We respect that because it's a real thing.
Mm-hmm.
Free will there's part of free will. It's like there's something there.
Mm-hmm.
There's something there. You
Yeah.
make choices. You don't know why you make choices, but you make choices. That's the thing. There's a lot of factors in why you make choices, and it's not 100% determinism, and it's not 100% free will. It's kind of, there's a soup.
Mm-hmm.
There's a very
Well, to the
movable
extent,
soup.
To the extent that you can exert free will, you have to kind of do the best you can.
Yeah, you got to do the best you can.
Yeah. Yeah, and even if we're uploaded into the cloud, let's say, I mean, how's that time going to be spent?
Good question. Are we even capable of imagining what we're talking about? Are we so crude in our understanding of what's to come in the next 5, 10, whatever years that we're just guessing? We're silly. We're like writing a bad science fiction movie from the 1980s about the year 2000.
Mm-hmm.
You remember those, like Space 1999?
Well, it's the one God and the golden rule. I think that's what we'll be, left with ethically. What the basis of our decision making will be.
I've always wondered if we're in a race to avoid catastrophe, and that's one of the reasons why we're so like hyper focused on accelerating with technology, is that we kind of always recognize that this species is on a race to avoid natural catastrophe. Like there's just so much potential for natural catastrophe, whether it's super volcanoes, asteroid impacts. So many different things have like almost wiped us out to nothing. That it's like might be a part of the reason why there's this like mad rush to make better and better and better technology. It's almost like a game. Like, can you get to the final boss? Can your species survive and figure out a way to stop the rock from space?
Yeah, the footsteps of the Messiah. That's what that's called. I mean, you want to be at you want to be around at the time of the Messiah, but not really, because things have to get so bad. That's one model of the end of times.
There's also a lot of people that don't recognize that being a human being on Earth is being a passenger in an organic spaceship going through the universe. Mm-hmm. Like there are real celestial events that they have to keep their eyes on, which you haven't experienced in your life. So you're like, but no, there's giant rocks that killed the dinosaurs, and they're still floating around, same size rocks.
Yeah, I know.
And they can't stop them. They don't know how to stop them yet. Like, don't listen to any of these fucking people. Oh, if we saw it, we would do this and do that and sleep tight at night. No. No, if there was some gigantic state-sized chunk of metal flying through the galaxy, we would have a real problem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It might wipe out all of humanity.
Yeah, it might wipe out all of humanity.
Yeah,
And it probably came really close to doing that a few times in history. That's what I think.
yeah,
It's the only thing that makes sense. If we know that we're hit all the time, we all accept the fact that the Yucatan impact, that's what killed the dinosaurs, and there's been a bunch of them throughout history. We find craters everywhere. Everyone knows that we've been hit multiple times. The Tunguska thing in Russia,
yeah.
where it flattened this enormous patch of forest that's still flattened.
Have you been watching season 2 of Graham Hancock's Ancient Apocalypse?
I didn't
work?
watch season 2 yet.
Yeah.
No, I watched season 1 though.
Yeah.
What's season 2 about?
Yeah.
It's like the Americas, right?
Yeah.
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 Yeah, the Americas are crazy.
Yeah, I like Graham.
Oh, he's the best.
Yeah, he's hardworking.
Oh, he loves what he does, man. He really, really does. And the fact that he's finally been over all these attacks, he's finally been vindicated, and people are starting to accept more and more things, are probably a lot older than we want to believe. And
Yeah.
especially after Göbekli Tepe, that kind of like that popped the cork on everything, and everyone's like, okay, well, this has definitely been buried for 11,000 years. So this is kind of crazy. We didn't know they could do that back then.
Well, before coming out here, I asked ChatGPT, how old are some of the stories written down in the text in the Hebrew Bible? And at least according to ChatGPT, it's 10,000 years ago. So
Oh my God,
something may have happened at that time.
that makes sense.
Yeah, that's a very interesting finding. Oh, Sodom and Gomorrah, that's a great story. I'm working on this translation of the Hebrew Bible. I've got a Substack now. I've been putting out things every week, a chapter a week.
Yeah.
On my translation of the Bible. It's like 1,000 pages right now of commentary about the language and the grammar, the meaning, what's called the plain meaning of the text. Like there was a Noah with 3 sons and went on the ark. Yeah, so that's like my big project, but I'd like to do a smaller one about Sodom and Gomorrah and the figure of Lot. I think that's a really incredible story. I've spent about maybe 2 to 3 weeks looking at that, Lot, his virgin daughters, the men circling his house, they're asking to know him. He ends up, in a cave with his 2 virgin daughters. They get him drunk, and he sleeps with them. Or they lie with him anyway. Yeah, and out come 2 kids at a certain point, and they become very important. Later on, they're the beginning of the Messianic line. So it's a very intricate, tale with a very. I think you can make some cool conversations between some of the main personages in the narrative. There was a book called The Red Tent.
Can I ask you about the Lot? Like how old was that story?
Well, that must be. Well, it's an explanation of Sodom and Gomorrah, which is around the Dead Sea. There was a conflagration of some sort there. Have any of your guests spoken about Sodom? What actually happened around the Dead Sea? It was quite catastrophic.
Well, tell us.
Well, the story of Lot. Yeah, I mean there was fire and sulfur pouring down on Sodom and Gomorrah. Yeah, it was the end of the plain. Yeah, so that's the southern part of the Dead Sea. It is a Dead Sea because of its high salt concentrations. It was kind of closed off from the coast. So it's at least a description of what took place.
What do you think it's describing?
Well, I mean, my perspective is
A volcano?
it actually happened. Yeah, but people think a volcano, some kind of volcanic activity.
It totally sounds like a volcano, right? And we know that there's been a bunch of those that have almost wiped people out entirely at certain points. That Toba volcano,
Yeah.
That one?
No.
We got down to, I think we've looked this up before, but I want to say they think we might have gotten down to just a few thousand people.
On the whole planet.
Like 70,000 years ago. 70,000 years ago, there was a massive supervolcano that went off, and it, plunged the Earth probably into nuclear winter. And they think that our genetic line entirely of the human race on Earth came from this few thousand survivors.
Joe, can we take a
Yes.
a break?
You gotta pee?
Yeah.
Yes. We'll be right back, folks.
Seriously.
We're back.
Yeah, so we were talking about the alternative.
Yes. Explain
Universe.
what you mean by that. Like that these things are happening in an alternative dimension.
Right. Yeah, I think they're happening in an alternative dimension. Like when you smoke DMT, you return to the same place each time. So there seems to be some reality, some DMT world that people enter into. And it's one of my volunteers, one of the subjects in the DMT research. He got a big dose one day, and then a few months later, he got another big dose. And he said that it was very interesting. He said things have just continued apace since his first exposure and his first entrance into that state, and things had gone on in the meantime. And he re-entered that world. So in that way, there's in that same manner, the world of the Hebrew Bible early on, Adam, Eve, Cain, Abel, Noah, the Tower of Babel, all that took place at some different level of reality, which gradually made its way into ours. And once it made its way...
The Book of Enoch is nuts.
That's
I talked
the
to Wes
Giants
Huff about
one.
it.
That's the Giants
It's
one,
not
right?
just the Giants, it's aliens. It's about the Watchers who came down and mated with human beings. Bro, I'm reading it right now.
I know you are. I already know.
Bananas. She told me to read it. And she's like, you have to read this. It's nuts.
And what did Wes Huff say? Did he say there's a legitimacy?
It's 100% a legitimate text. It's legitimate religious text, but they decided not to include it because it's so nuts and because it goes against what the writings of the Torah.
Right.
So, but it was a few rabbis. Just a few rabbis decided. If the Book of Enoch was included in the Bible, it changes the whole story of the human race.
Why would the rabbis decide what goes into the
Christian? They had that kind of power. They just decided that it doesn't get included in the canon. This is a long time ago.
But yeah, I mean, this is like around. Well, who decided to canonize Bible, right? This is like Constantine time, right?
Well, that's for the New Testament, right? And so with the Old Testament, you've got Wes Huff would be the guy to ask all these questions.
Enoch was included in the Old Testament.
Oh, it's old as fuck.
Oh, okay,
Not only is it old as fuck, when they found it, they also found a version of the Book of Isaiah. This is one of the things that Wes Huff told me that was really fascinating. They found a version of the Book of Isaiah that is verbatim the same as the version of Isaiah that was 1,000 years later, which they thought was the original.
Unbelievable.
That's what's crazy. For 1,000 years, they maintained the exact same story verbatim, writing it down and passing it on. And the Book of Enoch's in there with that. And the Book of Enoch is bananas.
Yeah, I think we might need to do a little deep dive on the Book of Enoch.
The Book of Enoch, it says that these Watchers came down and mated with human beings and created a race of giants called the Nephilim who consumed and destroyed everything in front of them. Gee, that sounds like people. That sounds a lot like people.
Yeah.
If you got a bunch of little chimps and then you got these tall aliens and they make a fucking 7-foot man, a Viking, who's like chopping off heads and lighting villages on fire and has this unstoppable desire for conquest, that's humans. The Nephilim sounds like humans.
Exactly. So they're not giants. We are the giants. And then what if the other folks...
They might have been giants. It's hard to say.
But what if the other folks were the Neanderthals? Well, because there was a time where we're living together, right?
Right. Well, they were here before us, allegedly. Well, the question is where did humans come from?
Yeah. This
is the real question. There's a really interesting show on PBS right now called Human, where this lady goes on this journey of, she's, what is her degree in? Is she an anthropologist? I believe she's an anthropologist, but, or maybe some sort of biologist, but she goes over the history of the human species. It's very interesting. The migration from across the Bering Land Bridge into North America, when the oldest people started coming here, how they came here. Fascinating stuff. But that's one of those things, if you think ancient history is filled with horseshit, ancient human history, of the humans That's the woman's name. I don't want to fuck up her name. Ella
Al-Shamahi.
Shamahi, and it's on BBC and PBS. Really good show. I just started watching it. She's a paleontologist, degree in genetics and taxonomy and biodiversity. But they just found recently a human skull that pushes the date of humans back another 500,000 years.
Yeah.
So it's like all they know is what they find in the fossil record, and there's so little fossil record.
Yeah.
And then they keep finding new things.
Yeah.
Like they just found Denisovans in like 2010. They're like,
What is that?
What's this? Total new branch of the human tree.
It's called
Denisovans.
Denisovans.
Yeah, they
Okay.
found like a bunch of teeth, I think, in Asia, and they're like, what the fuck is this? And then or maybe it was Russia. So there's that. There's the one that they found in China, the big head people.
That's the one that I saw
real
recently.
recent.
Yeah.
That's real recent. I forget what that one's called. We've done this a million times, but I always forget. But so they're always finding these new versions of humans. So how many of them really were there? But if there's a bunch of science experiments, if aliens are coming down and like, let's try them where they're short and really powerful and they only eat meat. And that's Neanderthals. Like, stop. This one's not
Too
a
much.
good design.
Yeah.
This is not a good design. We need them a little more frail so they invent things.
Yeah.
Because the brutes don't invent anything.
Yeah, more frontal cortex.
Yeah, the Neanderthals had bigger brains than us. That's what's interesting.
So then what part of our brain was specifically different?
See, we have a very our idea of them is that they were dumb and they couldn't talk and that they were brutes. But it doesn't seem like that's true. In fact, it seems like they had art, they definitely had tools, and they had language. And they might have been as smart as us. They were just different. And maybe us being a little weaker is what made us smarter. You know?
Or made us work collectively.
Maybe we're a little more alien, just a touch.
Right.
There's a little too much salt in that stew. Let's add a touch more of us. And, it seems like the hairy, 5'7", 200-pound fucking savages with big eyes that might be able to see at night because it looks like they might have had night vision. They have huge eyeballs, man.
Right.
The Neanderthal eye socket's way bigger than ours. Their skull's thicker. Their bones are more dense. They might have had night vision like a dog. You know how dogs, their eyes glow when the headlights hit them? They might have had that same ability.
I mean, I don't know why.
That design's too sketchy.
It's just not
They
working.
can see at night,
Yeah.
and then they go hunting other people. This is too much.
But then we hunted them.
Maybe. We might have just fucked them.
I also heard we fucked them.
Well, I
Yeah,
think we
you had
hunted
that
them and
joke,
we
right?
fucked
You're
them.
like, I got a little bit of... Yeah.
One more time with the monkey.
But in terms of, like, the stories, like... All right, you know when a comic gets off stage and, like, they think they killed, but they bombed?
Right.
Like, there could be people telling those stories in the books.
There could be.
Like, meaning what their rendition of what happened is in the book, and that is what they truly believed happened. They might not even be delusional. They are delusional, but, like, that's what they saw, and that's what happened to them.
And history is always written by the winners.
Exactly.
Yeah. My version of the Bible story back in the day, I used to have this bit about Noah's Ark. I was like, the problem with the Bible is people are full of shit, and that story sucks.
Yeah.
Like, it's that simple. It's like people lie all the time. I've never met any politician or any person who's in charge of anything that's, like, really important that I would say never lies. So if you're back then where there's zero accountability, zero video, zero anything, they can't even write.
Well, that's where the cross-referencing makes sense, right? It's like that's when you got a bunch of different people saying the same thing or similar things. You start to go, okay, maybe this did happen.
Oh, biblically accurate angel.
Ooh. Biblically accurate angel.
Have you seen what a biblically accurate angel looks
Yeah,
like?
they look like aliens.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah, they look like geometric patterns.
Yeah.
I always wonder what the alien. Tucker Carlson's convinced that aliens and devils are that's what like angels and devils and aliens are all the same thing. He thinks that they're not visiting from somewhere else; that they've always been here, and that there's some sort of spiritual aspect to like the UFO encounter, UAP phenomenon.
Oh, I see. Yes. Well, there's a lot of interesting pictures that are, drawn on cave walls.
Oh, yeah.
And things like that.
Oh, we've gone over a shit ton of them.
Yeah.
And then also ancient religious art where it looks like people are in vehicles flying through the sky. I'm sure you've seen those
I've
too,
seen
right?
those too.
Yeah, like what is that? Like what are you trying to? There's no other stuff that you're in that thing that's fantastical.
Mm-hmm.
Everything else is like an accurate representation of life at that time,
Yeah.
except for these people that are in these flying things in the sky. Like what is that?
Yeah.
We just don't know,
You know,
unfortunately.
when I looked at all of the credible UFO reports, the only ones that really had no explanation, I actually asked ChatGPT, of all of the credible of all of the UFO reports, which ones have not in some way been sort of explained, right? And which ones are the ones that are still like, and the one that was not, the one that's still sort of outstanding is the USS Nimitz experience.
Commander David Fravor.
Right.
Yeah, I've had him on the podcast talking about
Have you
it.
really?
Yeah.
Yeah, that seems to be the most compelling.
There's other ones, though.
Yeah.
Ryan Graves, he's another fighter pilot, and that was off the East Coast. So the Nimitz is off the coast of San Diego. But off the East Coast, they upgraded their sensors in 2014 on the fighter jets, and then immediately started encountering these things that defied known physics that were in the sky. And, you know, and these guys had these encounters with these things that were like a cube inside of a sphere that's like motionless at 120 knot winds and no heat signature and moving through the sky. They don't know what the fuck they are.
What do you say to the theory that of the possibility that that is sort of black ops? Like the idea that the SR-71, I think,
Blackbird.
the Blackbird. There's a company called Skunk Works, right? And they were responsible for the declassification of that aircraft, and then I think the F-111 or the stealth bombers, and you know. But since then, and that was like 25 years ago or more, there have not been any more declassifications.
Yeah, it's a good argument.
I'm curious as to like what in 25 years, based on the technology that we've been able to see that makes it to modern society, how much is held back, and what we don't see, it just interests me, and I don't know. I don't have an answer. I'm not asking myself whether I actually believe that it's almost unlikely that we have that technology, but because I feel like it would just take so much more than we may be capable of to cover it up, but maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think it would. I think there's a high likelihood that a lot of this stuff is ours. And I think one of the reasons for that statement is that this stuff always happens over military airspace.
Yeah.
East Coast and West Coast. Like, so the East Coast stuff, the Ryan Graves stuff, they're doing it over areas where these fighter jet pilots run training missions.
Yeah.
And then the same thing as the West Coast stuff, like where it's off the coast of San Diego, which is like tons of military out there.
Yeah.
I do believe that there's some programs that are operational, and there's a great podcast. Jesse Michaels has an amazing YouTube channel he's covered this stuff like really extensively, and he's a brilliant guy. He really understands it, and they were working on some anti-gravity technology in the 1960s, and most likely they continued that work.
Artificial horizon technology and stuff like that. That I mean, it's got to have come far since then.
Yeah, and there's the idea that they could hide all that stuff. No, they could never hide it. Of course they could. They definitely could. You're being naive. You're being naive as to how much the government can hide.
I'm only asking the question.
Not you. I don't mean you. I mean people that say that.
I actually pretty much, that's where I lean towards when it comes to that.
I think some of it, but some of it also could be from somewhere else. And I think some of it just exhibits, like the Nimitz one. Okay, this is 2004. So this tic-tac goes from more than 50,000 feet above sea level to sea level in less than a second.
Yeah.
Like 7/8 of a second.
Sure.
Like, that's crazy.
That is.
That's
and
crazy.
You're right.
Like,
and
what is that?
And it changes it when you remember how long ago these things were being seen.
Right. Because this is 2004. But then you go back to the 1960s. If they're really working on anti-gravity technology back then, it's possible that they could have created a drone.
Right.
The thing is, like, could a human being survive inside of those things at those extreme speeds? Well, the question is, like, what are they experiencing in that? Because if it's a gravity device, if it's moving, if it's manipulating gravity, so it might not have G-forces at all. It
Right.
might be operating in a completely different paradigm.
Yeah, well, there may be sort of just, trillions of of alternate sort of, momentum shifts in the outside protective layer that balance out whatever's happening on the inside to the point where, they're using this crazy technology.
That's also why the argument is that they're blurry. Like, so a lot of the photographs of these things are blurry. It might be because they're actually existing in some sort of a gravity, like, void.
Yeah.
And what you're seeing is not exactly what's there. You're seeing it through, like, a dirty windshield.
I've seen some stuff.
Have you?
Yeah.
What have you seen?
When I was in Maui, twice I've seen something that I could not explain. The one time I looked up and about 9 of us were hanging out. And we all looked up at the same time to see an orange orb. And it looked like it was 100 yards away, maybe 200, just floating, kind of observing. And then I swear it seemed like as soon as enough people saw it, it went whoosh, and then it went whoosh, and it moved like nothing else I thought possible at the time. It went out of the atmosphere. And it was crazy, faster than any drone. And this was back in like 2004, 2005, maybe. So it was we were all young. I was maybe a little teenager, so it was probably like 2006. But it was like. It was crazy. I'm not telling you. It was like,
well, a lot of them happen near the ocean too,
yes.
which is interesting.
And another one, I was out on Lanai, and we were hanging out with some friends, and we were laying down on the lawn, and when you're out in Lanai, on the backside of Lanai, there's no light pollution at all, and so you have just this big giant fishbowl of stars, and it's the most incredible. It's like you're sitting in a
spaceship.
In a spaceship, exactly, and you feel that you're on spaceship Earth at the time. Like you are on that rock hurtling through space at that point. And I saw this. It scared the girls. We all saw this pulsing colored thing go from one side of the horizon to the other, but in a very, like, it was like pulsing different colors, and it was like really interesting. And so, who knows what that could have been, but it was quite interesting.
Well,
I'll never forget
vast majority of the ocean floor is unexplored.
Right.
And so this is the theory, is that if you were going to set up a base here to observe human beings, if you came from somewhere else, you would probably do it in the ocean, especially if you have the kind of technology that will allow them to travel here from other star systems would also allow them to not be intimidated whatsoever
by the pressures.
Yes.
I mean, that's, I guess, the deep pressure is what would be the, it's almost the opposite of being in space. The vacuum, and then you have the deep pressure of that like, with the.
But there's videos of these things going in the water and not creating a splash.
Yeah.
So, like, what is that? Is it a hologram? So is it not a physical object? Or are they doing something that allows them to not interact with any physical thing on Earth? Like some sort of a void that they travel through. So they can go through the trees. This is like part of Jacques Vallée's research too. In one of his books that was really fascinating was this woman observed this like egg-shaped thing, and when it took off, it went through the trees, but it didn't hurt the trees. But it was on the ground, like as a physical object, and when it took off, it went through the trees.
Well, I wonder if then, we're talking about like bending space-time.
Yeah.
At that point, are you creating some sort of like warp?
Yeah, you're creating some sort of a
warp drive thing.
That's the idea.
Where you're just like warping space and time around a centralized location, and you sort of have to be, use sort of the, these like different sort of exotic forms of matter, and having an understanding of exotic matter, which we're now just starting to understand that there are these exotic matter types that that work in these weird ways. But if you read about it now, the only information available is that we're only like cracking the surface of the understanding of these types of matter, and
maybe we are
hundreds of thousands of years away from understanding that.
But I mean, that's that old saying that any technology that's sufficiently advanced is indistinguishable from magic. Is it Carl Sagan said that? I forget who said that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, if you're looking at something from 1,000 years from now, it would seem like magic. I mean, if we continue, we don't blow ourselves up, and science and AI continue to figure out more compelling uses of universal energy, like whatever background energy that we have.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Well,
Who knows what human beings will be capable of? So you got to imagine if something's visiting us from somewhere else, especially if they have artificial super intelligence.
Yeah.
If they've traversed this journey that we're on, if they've gotten to the point where whatever we're currently investigating, whatever they're working on right now in terms of like super intelligent AI, what if they've gone through that and they're 1,000 years more advanced? All that stuff would be probably simple for them to be able to go through the water, to have these transmedium crafts that are capable of flying in the air, through the water.
Right. Well, the interesting question for ourselves is how do we get to a place as a society to where we can trust in our science, we can trust to say that we trust it enough to fund it.
Well, that's not trusting the science. The problem is the human beings that are in possession of the science.
Well, but that's what I mean. Like, how do we restore faith in that? And because it's not all bullshit. There is real, like we wouldn't exist where we are without the science that has brought us to where we are.
Yeah, technology.
And technology.
Yeah.
And so understanding and trusting and figuring out how to restore faith in certain institutions that we have, because we need them to survive and to keep going, So it's like not tearing down the airplane while it's falling. You have to repair the airplane from inside, and then keep it flying if you can, So is there a way to like right the ship while we're in it?
Well, I think the problem is a lot of this stuff is military funding, right? So a lot of the applications for any sort of like super advanced technology is going to be weapon systems.
Right.
And that's what everybody's terrified of. What they're terrified of is that you're going to develop more efficient ways to kill people.
Yeah.
And that's really the only way these things get funded. They're not going to.
No, that's the problem.
Yeah.
I'm saying. I'm like, well, how do we switch it so that we can, have people in power that really are looking out for the future of humanity.
Yeah.
And then have people that actually want that